right, welcome back, you guys. Today is day 2 of becoming the CEO week. And today we're talking about 3 keys to actualizing your dreams. So, this is one that we are so passionate about because we really believe in intentionally going after what those goals and dreams are and making sure that it's not just something we say and then never look at it again and kind of cross our fingers and hope that at the end of the year, it all turned out, right? So today I want to talk about these 3 keys. The first one is going to be goal setting. So aligning your intentions with inspired action, like Brian talked about yesterday. The second one is clearing the internal and external blocks. We're going to talk a little bit about what that means. And the third one is cultivating that energy and support system. So making sure that you have the things in place that you need in order to execute and make things happen. So welcome back, Brian.
Hello, I'm excited to be back.
All right, so let's get right into it. So the first one that we're going to talk about is the goal setting. So you guys can actually see behind Brian is our kind of goal setting wall where we have all of our different, strategies and topics and dreams and milestones and all of that stuff. So let's kind of first talk about that wall a little bit. Maybe you can share like more specifically what's on there, what the intention is, and kind of how we're using that.
Yeah, I was just thinking about today's theme quite some time ago when I was working at a club as a contractor, personal trainer there. At the beginning of every year, I would write down my financial target, and it's broken down very simply into your rates and how many hours you have to give and the clients that you need to have,
Yeah.
on a regular basis and factoring in different seasons and slumps and things. And I'd write down this number and I would just like forget it. I just put it somewhere in my journal and forget it. And then when I was doing my income taxes, I would notice that, wow, I'm like within range of this number every year, right? That was until it got to a certain number
Right.
because it climbed very incrementally and steadily up to a certain number that I
Yeah.
was comfortable with.
Yeah.
Then when I wrote a different number down, it felt just weird and different in my body.
Yeah.
That's when I started running into blocks
Mm.
and beginning the process of learning of that it's like upgrading and how I just said the word blocks, but also like aligning and all the other factors that help you rise up to this new level of success or whatever your
Yeah.
goals are, right? So that's how we kind of got into some of the stuff that we're going to discuss today because I was able to achieve those goals without having a board, without having any visuals and all these tools. But now you have to have this stuff like in front of you, and I've learned that through another coach as well. Like you got to interact with it every day. Like it's
And
got to
you're
be
trying to
part
get
of
to a
your.
new place, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
that's where the game really starts to change a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing that I want to also say before we kind of dive into the wall too is like we talked about this quickly this morning is that when you're setting goals, I know how this can feel when you set these goals and maybe you get to each month and you don't hit the goal and you keep setting them and you keep missing them. And this is really common, right? And I think people get really discouraged by it. And so I want to just share this, idea that the reason that we set goals actually isn't necessarily to make sure that we hit them. It's more to get us to open up and get our minds to open up and start thinking about different ideas. Because if we look at our goals and go, okay, I want to hit, let's say it's 5 grand or 8 grand a month, and we sort of organize our brain to go, okay, what's the like kind of minimum that I need to do in order to hit that? And then most people go, well, my program is 2 grand. So if I need to hit 8 grand, I need to sell 4 clients because usually they calculate based on paid in fulls, which I also wouldn't recommend, but that's another story. And that's usually what people do. And so you go, well, I can get 4 clients. It's not a big deal. 2 grand, I should be able to hit it. But then you don't, right? And the reason that we don't is because we're trying to aim for where we need to land when really we should be thinking about how to get to 10 or 12 or 15 so that the new ideas come. And even if we don't hit those, we can fall to the 7 or 8. So I think we need to kind of adjust the way that we use goals and the way that we look at them when we don't hit them and use it more as a way to spark creativity and to start doing new and different things that maybe we wouldn't have thought of if we had the smaller goal. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the other thing I would like to share, because in some of my work I also occasionally bring in tarot
Yeah.
in my work, and there's this card called the Fool, which is like a jester juggling all the signs
Yeah.
of the zodiac. And the main meaning of that card, and the number to that card is zero. So zero is the ultimate number of potential, right? So the main theme of that card is you can have access to everything, but you have to choose. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't choose, you're not pointing yourself at anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's no sense of urgency. There's no accountability. It's just like this hairy fairy sort of like,
Yeah.
it like in the picture too. It's like this clown
Yeah.
juggling, right?
Right.
So if we don't choose something, what are we doing? If there's no target to shoot at, like if you're shooting arrows, you're doing archery, you're just shooting arrows into the forest or whatever, and there's no target, like there's no
Yeah.
measurement
Yeah.
of progress. No, there's no game to
Yeah.
play, right? And
Absolutely.
I've had this challenge with when I've led trainers. Some of them have been afraid to set goals because they're
Yeah.
afraid to fail
Yeah.
at
And it's
achieving it,
totally
right?
classic for people to then set them and literally never look at them again. Like we're
Yeah.
going to actually do our goal setting session inside the Becoming the CEO program today. And chances are there are going to be some people who don't remember the goals that they set for themselves for February. So now we're trying to look back and go, did we hit them? Did we not? What happened? Why did we hit them or why didn't we? And, do all of that stuff so we can make decisions going forward. And I guarantee you there will be people, and it's no judgment. It's just this is what happens, right? People will not remember what they actually set for February. So we want to make sure that these are staying in front of you. So maybe I'll just start like in the on the wall. At the top, you can see those colored construction paper with the white paper over it. And those have all the months of the year. And that's where we've written in on the right hand side. You might be able to see there's some writing. We've written in all the milestones and all the goals that we want to hit, and even the events or things that we're hosting in every single month so that we know where the heck we're going, and
Yeah.
that will help us kind of plan and prioritize and all of that stuff as we lead up to each of those things.
Yeah, and we'll write down in the other column is like the actual things we're doing, like the actions we're taking and what we're up to. And there's some personal stuff in there too. Like there's personal milestones in there too that we have to remember to. One of my goals to this year from the retreat that we went on was to align my professional goals with my personal goals as
Mm,
well. So
yeah,
that my family, my relationship, everything, my son, everyone is involved in whether they are aware of it or not. Everyone is involved in the process, and that's also a driver for me, the people that I love that are at stake, right? So um, everything's in there, and it's kind of fun to just stare at it sometimes when you're lost and you don't know what to do. Like stare at it and let it
yeah,
speak to you, you know?
yeah,
It's like a
totally.
map.
Yeah. And that actually drives the high impact task, which is the next piece, right? So again, one of the biggest challenges I see from coaches is not only are they not either not setting goals or not looking at them on a regular basis, but they also aren't prioritizing high impact tasks. And typically, those are the ones that drive revenue. So often, what I see is people who are doing kind of busy work, people who are doing a lot of content creation, people who are sort of hiding behind the scenes doing the things that they feel comfortable doing, right? When you create your content for your membership site for your clients, you know that stuff inside and out. It's easy to do, right? So a lot of people kind of hide behind that, but they're not prioritizing the high impact task, which is actually building relationships and going to events and hosting events and talking to people and creating your pipeline so that when you launch your program, you actually have people to launch it to, right? So
Yeah.
this is like the next piece is prioritizing the high impact tasks. huge.
Yeah, I think one thing that I learned as well was until there are actual people interested and intrigued or even asking questions about your program, whatever it is, um, it's really hard to just make stuff up and go, I'm going to sell this, and I'm certain this is going to sell and have value. It's
Yeah.
you really don't know until you're starting to actually engage with people. It's
Yeah.
kind of like you're engaging, like if you create a Facebook group and you just have this free sort of community where you get the right people in the mix and you're having conversations, posting, sharing some value, and it's until they start engaging with you, it it's really hard to know exactly what they need from the actual like tools, right? Although
Yeah.
you have all these things ready.
Yeah.
What's cool about it too is when there are like two, three, four, five people that are ready, the sense of urgency is there now
Yeah.
to get you to focus and drill down and get the right stuff out because you have your first group session with them
Yeah.
next Monday or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You have these very urgent timelines to get things done in a very focused manner.
Yeah, perfect. So, yeah, this is just like that next step is having the goals, looking them all the time, high impact tasks, making sure you're prioritizing daily basis, right? All the time, right? We have to reprioritize and sometimes even throughout the day as well so that we can create exactly what we want. And then the last part of this is just the daily alignment practice, right? Which will go into the next step, which is clearing the internal and external blocks. So maybe can you share a little bit about the alignment practices, some of the things that you or that we do to help us just stay engaged, know what's going on, and make sure we're setting ourselves up for the day?
Yeah, I think our morning, we're not 100% every single day doing this, but a greater part of the week we're doing our writing affirmations, that sort of thing, and which can elaborate on that in a second. But we've discovered chanting. We learned that at the retreat that we were at, which is another thing that we've been keeping up. Meditation, visualization. The other thing for me, like when we talked, I think maybe I don't know if we talked about it yesterday, but like sometimes when you have big goals and you're shifting and changing and transforming your business or whatever it is, you just can't sleep in. It's not possible. Like you wake up at 4, 5, 6 in the morning, no alarm, just kind of almost like I gotta get to work or gotta do something, or you might be just anxious. So one of the things I did this morning, because I was up early, was I don't really have the brain power to do very technical work at that hour,
Yeah.
but I listened to some like a shamanic, like chord clearing, chord cutting,
Mm.
sound wave. And like I did some things that kind of like calmed me back down, got me back into my good space, so that I could sort of begin. And I started this morning feeling way better, even though I was up like for hours, kind of anxious at first. So I have tools that I've discovered that I started using that helps with that's a form of meditation, right? Which as far as the practices go.
Yeah.
Um, another thing that we do that I think has been really powerful, and I requested we did this because I felt that I need to be in the weeds or in the trenches like all the time with our goals and really deconstructing and debriefing and doing a post-mortem on every month and sort of thing. So we record our meetings. Like we have meetings where we sit down and we record, okay, what happened, what worked, what didn't work. We talk it out, and I found it's one of the things I look forward to the most
Yeah.
with out of the practices that we do because I actually listen to the playback like 2 or 3 times because
Yeah.
when you're talking you're not really
Not me.
listening, right? So um that's a huge thing. If if you're on your own, you don't have a business partner or something, like sit down, hit record on your phone and just talk it out,
Yeah.
right? Or have a friend ask you questions and talk it out. Like I think it's really big organizations do this all the time. That's what boardrooms are for, right? So those are some of the other things that we do to keep things fresh.
Yeah. I love that one too. I do look forward to that one. We're doing it every like 3 weeks or so now. And
Yeah.
it's a really great way to kind of deep dive into what's going on and why and really clear some stuff. and think
Yeah.
some things out. So that's a great one and a great segue into the next section, which is clearing the internal and external blocks. So
Yeah.
the sort of three things in here are the energy clearing stuff, which we just talked about a few, but maybe we can just revisit quickly. Um, Changing the limiting beliefs into empowering beliefs, right? Making those shifts. I'll talk about that more in a second. And decluttering, organizing, clearing out your space, or maybe even changing spaces. So those are like the three things. So maybe you can talk about just really simple, again, some energy clearing ideas that people can use.
Yeah, I we did talk about like the writing too, which I didn't elaborate on as well. Is like if you were to write down a belief system that you've had already for years, it's automatic, and you write it on a sheet of paper, right? Maybe 5 times. Then you come up with a new belief that's more of a more empowering belief, but it's something that you may not have tried on for for like ever in your life, right? You'll notice that your hand will struggle to even write the words, like
Yeah.
and that's a neural pathway thing. So when we're doing the handwriting, it's creating a path. You can create new pathways to create new beliefs, right? So it's a physical activity that can actually change what's happening in the mind.
Mhm.
Um, that's one way to do it because you'll find that that is also that causes a mental idea, creates an emotion. Emotions is energy, emotion, and it gets blocked in the body. And that's when I'm doing Reiki. That's a lot of what I'm doing is emotional release and emotional clearing, right? Um, Breathing, breath work, stuff we talked about yesterday, moving the body. Like if you sit still and just be in a state of anxiety, all like, and you're staying still, like you try meditating that way. It's like it's near to impossible. It's miserable. It's like hell, right? So sometimes, and I went through this as well during some really stressful times during the pandemic, was I thought meditation would be the right thing for me to stay clear and calm and plan the next step. But I couldn't sit still. So I'd actually have to go for a walk or work out or something before I actually meditated. So you got to be aware of what's going to work, what's not going to work, and what worked 2 years ago may not work now for whatever reason, right? So
Yeah.
um, as far as blocking the external space as well, your desk needs to be clear,
Yeah.
organized the way you want. We got crystals around our computers and stuff. Um, and just this office area is usually generally pretty clean. Like there's usually not any stuff on the ground that nothing that needs to be here. Stella's bone is on the floor, but other than that, it's because she
And there
comes
are
in here
two
to
of us
work.
in there.
She
And it's
works too.
you
Yeah.
are too. But there's both of us in there, right? We still make sure that it's like tidy and clear before we.
Yeah, because this area also for a lot of people, their office space, the place they work, represents their livelihood. It represents their success and everything. If it's a big cluttered mess, like that's what that's what it's representing, right? So
Yeah.
there's that as well. And the other thing too to share with regards to external environment is we just know when to do it. We don't plan them in advance necessarily, but we look at our week sometimes, and if we're overdue for it, we go on a mini retreat, right? We take a drive to the beach. We relocate ourselves. Sometimes we work in a coffee shop. So there's other things that you can do that just shakes things up a bit and just clears and lightens up some of the stress around what you're up to, especially if it's a new activity and a new sort of like upgrade.
Yeah. Yeah, this is so good. So I want to just go back quickly about the energy clearing stuff because
Mhm.
when we start our sessions in becoming the CEO, we always do like a bit of a check-in for people to talk about, they share their names and where they're from and stuff like that in case there's
Yeah.
anyone new. But then they also share what they're working on. So a little bit of a check-in, but then we always do some kind of clearing, whether it's a chanting, a meditation, a breath work little sequence. We always do something that's going to be energy clearing before we get started. So that can be super powerful and it doesn't have to take long, like we talked about yesterday,
Minutes. Just
like
takes
2 minutes.
minutes.
And it's
Yeah.
been amazing and just like gets you in the zone and then you can work. And then,
Yeah, the other thing too is sorry,
yeah,
is when they log in and they check in the chat, name, where you're from, what do you do, what are you working on, and we might have a theme question of the week too, which might be what was your biggest win this week,
Yeah.
right? That process is part of the clearing. It's a grounding process. It brings you down. Okay, you know, was there any wins this week? There's got to be, right? And then they start like,
There's always
and then they
some.
get into this place of gratitude. It's all in Lily mini stages.
Yeah.
And then we do the little clearing piece, and then like when I do it, I literally count them down, three, two, one. All right, let's
Yeah.
go. And
Yeah.
then everyone just gets into it, right? So
Yeah.
it's I it'll be it's definitely makes it different than if we just logged in. Okay, I already get to work, right? And
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you
For sure.
know,
Like sets the tone, it creates community, it gets everyone on the same page. Like it's massively impactful. And this is actually going to
yeah,
lead us straight into the third one, which is, cultivating the energy and the support system around you. And so
yeah,
inside there, one of them is engaging in community.
hmm
One of them is having an accountability partner or a coach. And the third one is, protecting your life force, which we talked about yesterday. So, this piece where we're doing it together, like I know it could sound crazy to some people that we're actually connecting all on Zoom. There could be like 10 or 12 or 15 of us, maybe more, who are all just coming to silently work, right? So there's going to be music, and we're doing the clearing at the beginning, and we're doing the check in, and we're doing a check in at the end of the session as well. But it might seem crazy to people that we're going to sit on the computer with people silently for 90 minutes, right? But that energy of the community being there and just like doing it together, doing the clearing piece first, being ready to actually dive in, and knowing that you're basically not moving from your seat for that 90 minutes.
yeah,
Honestly, the amount of work that we get done is crazy. And, you and I are lucky because we get to do it together because we're business partners and we're in the same space and all of that
yeah,
stuff. But most people don't have that, right? So, in order for people to really get the important work done, which goes back to prioritizing the high impact tasks that we talked about at the very beginning, like this is it. And I'll just mention one other thing and then I'll let you jump in. But we also in becoming the CEO in the program, we also do the laser focus calls. So on Mondays for 15 minutes, if you want to, you can book a call and we can talk quickly about what your focus is for the week and exactly what you're going to be working on to make sure that you're hitting those high impact tasks for the week that are actually going to move your business forward. So there's lots of different pieces in here that will help you right tasks, right community, actually take action and get things done.
yeah. And that's where also we have understood the importance too of not only is it amazing that we can do this online and we have people from we can expand the geography around who we get to work with, but
Yeah.
also locally, we've hosted our suburban mini retreats where it's in person
Yeah.
and, like we have snacks with each other. We go for a walk and we basically incorporate all the other things that you could physically engage with
Yeah.
prior to sitting down and doing the work. And we have basically two sections of the house where people are just quiet working away, and there's a place where people can conference a little bit. So, but it's so neat having everyone together, especially the last session we did. Everyone was like really just locked in for
Yeah.
over
Like
an hour
everyone's
on their
sitting in
laptops
different
and stuff.
places in
Yeah.
the house and just quietly working, but the
And
energy was,
there's a comfort there. There's a comfort with being
yeah.
around people that are all in it, right?
Yeah.
Even though we're all working on different things, but we're just there. Like, and
Yeah.
you kind of will come out of it. One thing that was important for us too was we want to create it so that people are getting work and they barely notice. Like, it's like, wow, it was like so easy to do all that work.
Yeah. Huge.
And there was that flow, right? And
Yeah.
that's the whole point. It's so you don't have to struggle, right?
Absolutely.
So that's another thing too that's really helped a lot. And if you don't have it for a while, I find people go, wow, I didn't realize I needed this until I was here. I
Yeah.
totally need this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that piece is also, they all kind of go together, but that piece also goes into the changing your space, right? So
Yeah.
if you live in the Toronto area and we don't know it, let us know because we'd love to have
Yeah.
you. And if you don't, then, I recommend like find an accountability buddy, find a partner who you can go and work with at a coffee shop, go to a co-working space, like switch it up, get the community, get out of your regular so that you can get some creativity going. If it's warm where you live in the summer, all year round, whatever, go to the beach, go somewhere outside, like do some work there, take your notebook. Like, yes, we are digital entrepreneurs. Yes, we work on our laptops. And yes, all the technology and stuff. But at the end of the day, like paper and pen is still an amazing way to, I actually, for me, prefer to paper and pen if I'm doing stuff that's creative or I'm coming up with ideas or I'm trying to sort something out. Much better to do it paper and pen. So there are so many ways for you guys to get these different pieces. And, we just hope that by sharing this stuff with you, you'll maybe do one thing that's going to be different. And actually, I'd love for you guys to comment below this video and let us know the one thing that you are going to do that's going to be different. So, are you going to go to a coffee shop? Are you going to find an accountability partner? Are you going to get a coach? And later this week, we're going to be talking about becoming the CEO program. And maybe that's the answer for you guys so that you can get into our community and come and work away with us and get all the energy clearing stuff and get some shit done.
Awesome.
Anything else, Brian, before we go?
Just to share, like, I mean, it might, you know, almost probably a couple decades ago now. Like,
Don't date yourself.
I was tired of like bitching with two of my friends about, our work, our businesses and stuff. And he said, well, instead of bitching, why don't we just sit down every month on a Saturday morning, just like before kids and all that stuff, and let's just hash it out, and then hold we weren't even using the language of hold each other accountable, but like maybe we set some goals and we help each other achieve them,
Yeah.
right? And we didn't realize that this was a mini mastermind. We didn't realize that as accountability. We didn't realize all the things that we just described just now. We didn't realize it just happened organically because we just get tired of talking about it,
Yeah.
right? And there's another version of this when I was working at the club where we were really happy where we were working, but we also had this dream of owning a CrossFit gym.
Yeah.
So we'd go off the work property and go for a lunch, right? And we would dream up this idea and it actually did manifest into a CrossFit gym. It's just not all four of us ended up running it. Like one of them is still running it now, but we were just dreaming. We called it the Plan B meetings, where we're just like, if the club blew up and we didn't have our jobs anymore, what would we do, right? So as a result, we did actually end up going in whatever direction we needed to go. So you're kind of like actively playing a part in shifting the future. The other thing too is just to share with the board, there's parts of this that we can be touching almost every day, and there's parts of this that are just like quotes and photographs. We got spirit animals up, right? And there's, we have a whiteboard that's usually blank that I do energy, sort of clearing work on, or we just scribble some stuff there. I got some numerology stuff. There's more gonna go up as the year goes on. So it's kind of limitless how you want to use these things and be creative with it and look at it as like a shrine
Mhm.
to like your future, right? To your dreams and where you want to go next. Because if I've had this so many times, I set the goals, I just forget about them, and I get sucked into my old default habits. And the end of the year, when you're doing your taxes, you're like, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
this is what it's all about. And I think we're transforming from the inside out, right? So
Yeah.
um yeah, like just play with it, see if there's a space that you can start with and just start to have fun, play the game.
Yeah. I love that. I'm actually going to leave one last tip too, is that when you guys are goal setting, I really believe in creating not only revenue goals, but what I call activity goals and
Yeah.
making sure that you are taking the steps that you need to take in order to get to whatever the revenue goal is. So, for example, that might be how many new connections you're making. It might be how many events you're attending, how many events you're hosting. It might be how many calls you want to book. There's all of these activities that need to happen in order to produce the results. And so until you have a business where you can confidently say, if I do this, I'm going to achieve this revenue, you need to make sure that you are focused on the actions and on the things that you can control. You can control how many friend requests you send. You can control how many podcast pitches you put out there. You can control, how many new people you are actually getting on a call with. You can control how many events you're hosting or going to, right? So all the things that are in our control, that are actions to move us forward, those are the activity goals. And I strongly recommend that you guys focus on that. Maybe it's I'm doing 10 reach outs a day, I'm hosting 2 events, I'm attending 2 events, right, within the month. And just making sure that we're focused on that rather than a revenue goal where we may not know exactly how to get there yet. So I
Yeah.
think that's a really big takeaway and something that I focus on all the time with our clients, to make sure that we are
Mhm.
doing those high priority, high impact tasks.
Yeah.
Final words.
Yeah. That's
All
good.
right, you guys. This was good. Thank you so much. I love this conversation. We could literally talk about this stuff all day. If you guys have questions about this, if you're starting to have questions about becoming the CEO program and wanting to know more about that, we are doing online co-working with all the pieces that we talked about today. If you're starting to have questions there, by all means, drop them below, send us a DM, and we look forward to seeing you guys back tomorrow morning. Have an amazing day, and we'll see you then.
Thank you.